In the modern day, prepared citizens are looking for ways to take increased capability with them as they go about their everyday lives. Traumatic, violent situations can occur at any time, and it pays to be ready. The EDC of handguns and even medical equipment has become increasingly common in recent years as citizens begin to take responsibility for their own protection. However, there may be times where just a handgun and a TQ may not be enough to get you home. The riots during the Summer of Love in 2020 were a sobering reminder of just how quickly law enforcement can become overwhelmed if it gets bad enough. In the current political climate, all it takes for civil unrest to overwhelm a city is one bad shoot from the police, or any number of politically charged issues with a potent enough triggering event. In a matter of hours, a city can descend into anarchy, even if the triggering event happens in a different city or even state. Personally, I work in a larger city nearly an hour away from my house. If the streets became overwhelmed and I had to make my way around or through a violent mob to get where I needed to go, I would want more than just my EDC for protection. And thus, this kit was born. Call it a Cheapo Car Kit, call it a Civil Unrest Rapid Response Kit, call it whatever you want. The idea here is to have a separate set of equipment from your main fighting load that gives you important, relevant capabilities while retaining the ability to be run in a low-profile manner. And most importantly, be inexpensive enough that you can have these items in your car every day, regardless of how crime-ridden your AO is. It harkens back to the idea that the best concealed carry gun for you is the one you'll actually carry every day. So what's the use case for this thing? Basically, any situation that would benefit from having capabilities beyond your standard EDC, but that may require you to maintain a low profile. Maybe your buddy's house is in the danger zone of a riot. Perhaps a demonstration is taking place by a group known to be violent and you want to hang out nearby to grab intel on them. Could just be attending a parade and want to have extra capabilities on hand, but they need to be hidden. And honestly, it doesn't have to be dramatic. Having medical and water in your car is always a good idea. I've used the chest rig in disaster response efforts as a way to carry a TQ and a radio. Remember, you have to work with the equipment you have, not the equipment you wish you had. This video is less about the specific items here and more about the general concept. So here are the capabilities we are attempting to cover. Number 1, increase the fighting capability of our primary weapon. In my case, a Glock 19 handgun. Number 2, life-saving medical equipment. For example, an IFAK. Number 3, communications equipment. A radio. Number 4, the ability to carry this equipment on your body in a concealed but accessible manner. For example, this knockoff T-Rex Arms Ready Rig. Number 5, a water bottle. Look, it's not high speed, but if I'm out doing physical activities like this, I'll want some way to carry water. And lastly, a sling backpack to keep everything in one place and enable quick access to my IFAK, as well as give me a place I can stow or deploy my PTW from. Okay, so here's the kit. First we have Glock and a chassis, our knockoff Ready Rig, and then we have a slung backpack. In the chest rig I have a radio, 2 extra pistol mags as well, and then I have the ability to put whatever other items I feel like I need at that moment. In the backpack I have medical, quickly accessible right here. And then I have a water bottle as well inside the main compartment. The tools required to put my Glock into the chassis, as well as the holster I was using before I put my gun into the chassis. So you might be saying, really? A pistol chassis? Aren't those kind of like a meme or just a range toy? And I get why a lot of people feel that way about them. Up close, a regular pistol in the hands of an experienced shooter will more than likely be faster than a chassised one. Where these platforms shine is at extended distances where most people's handgun skills begin to taper off significantly. What I find is that my groups remain noticeably tighter with the chassis. I think this just comes down to more points of contact, making it easier to pull the trigger without throwing my shot off. Now, obviously if I were a better pistol shooter this wouldn't be an issue, but this can mitigate my incompetence. Forgot I was supposed to reload. If you saw my last video, you know that I'm a fan of using the T-Rex Arms shooting standards as a sort of comparison. So that's what I've decided to do here. So you'll see those results on screen now. Okay, so today I'm out here to do the T-Rex Arms shooting standards with the pistol and as well as the Glock pistol chassis. I've done a little bit of a warm up with the pistol already. Now, normally I wouldn't do that if I'm gonna do the T-Rex Arms shooting standards thing, but today I have, so full disclosure. Also, 2 more things to note. As stated before, the pistol chassis really shines at slightly extended distances beyond what pistols are normally shot at.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the TRSR's pistol force of fire, but I'm just going to take all the normal distances that you shoot it at, and I'm just going to extend them by about another 10 yards. Hang on, does this look dorky? Oh yeah, that looks nicer. Carry on. Also, number 2, my only USPSA cardboard targets are currently shot to pieces, so I'm just going to be using paper IDPA targets instead, because that's what I have on hand. So it's not going to be exactly the same, but it should be fairly close. Oh, and one more thing. On the standard, there are 2 drills near the beginning where it specifies you start them from holster. Now, generally, I've interpreted this to mean that the rest of the drills you do not start holstered and are instead starting from some sort of compressed ready.
Upon review, I discovered that I've been doing the pistol assessment wrong this whole time, and that you are actually supposed to start every drill from the holster, except for the first one where it specifies compressed ready. Just wanted to clear that up.
But for this, because the pistol chassis doesn't have a real holster, I'm going to do every drill from compressed ready instead of holster like you normally would. I think I'm about to get poured on, so this should be fun.
I ended up running each assessment twice, once apiece on 2 separate days. I did this because the first time I ran the pistol by itself, I did so poorly that I was concerned it would look like I doctored the results to make the chassis look better in comparison than it really was. When I ran the test the second time, I performed moderately better on both platforms, but the disparity in performance was just as dramatic. At distance, poor trigger pulls become far more obvious as many of your hits begin to drift low into C zones instead of A's. But the pistol chassis makes it significantly easier to keep my hits where they should be. Overall, I was very impressed by its performance. For the handgun alone, my final hit factor was a 1.8. In comparison, my final hit factor for the chassis was a 4.84. To be honest, going into this, I did not expect the chassis to be that much better. I expected perhaps a 1, maybe 2 point increase, yet these results show me that it's more viable than even I thought it was. But your mileage may vary. As said before, the better of a pistol shooter you are, the less dramatic this performance gap is likely to be. But for us mere mortals, I think there's a real argument for a practical use here. There's a lot of considerations that have to be made when using something like a pistol chassis, but probably one of the largest ones is just that there's no safety on this gun. If it's stowed away in a bag, you should probably not have a round chambered, but if you're carrying it, it's deployed, that's gonna come down to you. What I like about the sling bag is that you can swing it around to your front and quickly access items you may need, like your medical, like I showed you guys earlier, or even your entire PDW, relatively quickly. I wouldn't say it's insanely fast, but it's there. And of course, with some practice, that deployment time can come down significantly.
I'm practicing some bag draws. It's not going to be as fast as pulling it out of a holster, but my argument is that you should be able to get a much more capable platform.
Also, I know I said earlier that you shouldn't have a round chambered while your PDW is stowed in a bag like this, but all I'm saying is I've tried to pull the trigger while it's inside this bag, and it's technically possible, but I wouldn't say it's easy. So if you want to stow it for just a short amount of time or feel that you need that slight edge on deployment time, not saying you should, not saying you should. I don't want to speak too much to the experience of using this particular pistol chassis, as this is only one of many and isn't really the point of this video. What I'll say is that it's punchy and not really the most comfortable thing to shoot. I have mine installed slightly wrong in order to accommodate a backstrap on the Glock, but this actually improved usability as the angle inside the frame changed by doing this and made it easier to get my eye behind the optic without having to crush my face down so much on the brace. Reloading is a bit awkward at times, but I imagine that training will fix this. Personally, I think a red dot is mandatory on this chassis. However, it sits too close to your face for night vision, so don't try it. Unless you hate your wallet or don't want to see at night anymore. To be honest, I don't particularly like this chassis. The results speak for themselves, the performance increase is there, but it looks and feels janky. The plastic frame bends as you shoulder it, and I just don't like that. I'll be looking at other alternatives soon, but that's another video. Also, I know you're looking at the chest rig and thinking to yourself, okay, but isn't that super obvious that you're kind of a more tactically minded individual and you probably don't fit in here? And in most circumstances, I would tell you, absolutely, yes. What we're seeing is that in riots and other civil unrest, plate carriers, chest rigs, small amounts of tactical gear is becoming increasingly common on both sides of the political spectrum. So as long as you're minding your own business and not acting like a total weirdo, wearing a chest rig like this during a civil unrest situation is probably not going to get you too many weird looks. What seems to get most people in trouble when going to one of these events or navigating around it or what have you is being openly armed, particularly with a long gun. Which is why I like the ability to stow my platform inside this bag, but still be able to deploy it quickly should it become necessary anyway. And of course, if your environment is truly non-permissive, you may be able to get away with wearing the chest rig under a large shirt or sweatshirt or something like that. You might look like you put on 20 pounds, but that's okay.
Also, let's be clear. The best way to avoid getting hurt or killed in a riot is to avoid being there in the first place. Do not put yourself into this situation if you don't have to. And if you go into it looking for a fight, you might just find one. And regardless of who throws the first punch, at the end of the day, you'll be at the mercy of a jury. Just avoid it.
If your use case is different or you just don't see the viability in some of this, by all means, swap it out for something else. For instance, if you don't have any friends to talk to on the radio, you probably don't need a radio. Or if you're willing to leave a dedicated PDW platform in your vehicle at all times instead of something like a pistol chassis like this, more power to you. One essential component to making this kit work in the first place is that you already maintain a robust EDC. For instance, I always carry a Glock 19 with a red dot and a light on it, as well as an extra magazine, and I also always carry a tourniquet. So if your EDC gun is smaller than a Glock 19, you're probably not going to be able to find a chassis that's going to fit it in most cases. Riot season is upon us, so currently I keep this set up in my car at all times. Again, this isn't meant to be the end-all be-all for a practical preparedness kit. My hope with this discussion is that we can get some brain juices flowing to help you think about ways that you can be better prepared in your everyday life. So, as always, thanks for watching.